I was dying. My husband and I knew it. Things were not looking good for me, and I could not get anyone to help me. If you're not going in and cleaning out the root of your body, you are just wasting your money. So it really is a process of what's the problem, what's the herb, and how do you mitigate all of it? We think it's stress, we think it's just TMJ, but there is something that is in your nervous system causing it, and ultimately it's probably a parasite.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH, where we forge deeper awareness of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Today, we're literally going underground. I'm joined by Kim Rogers, better known as the Worm Queen. She's the founder of RogersHood Apothecary, the creator of the ParaFy cleanse, and one of the leading voices in the parasite and gut health space. Her mission is to expose what's living inside us, how it controls our cravings, our mood, and our health. And most importantly, to take our power back. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. That was awesome. That was a great introduction.
We did a little research on you on the back end. And as I told you, with both parents passing away from cancer, I've become very curious. What's going on in the body? What's going on in the lifestyle? What's going on as far as environmental factors? And creating the utmost awareness in seeing their treatment in the hospital and pain medications and the billing of insurance companies and seeing chemo and radiation. There's just too much money going into that realm for us to not have more information. And so it's not passing my smell test. And so as a byproduct, I've gone on this listening tour to find experts like yourself to explore and figure out how can we get to the bottom of this cancer conversation, but more importantly, how do we enhance the quality of people's lives through education and subtle improvements that are affordable and don't have to go through the loops and channels of healthcare, but we can get a reservoir of benefit. And so I've been on that mission for a little bit now, and we came across your page, and I was like, I've got to have Kim on the show. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am aligned with all of that, literally, and I'm sorry about your parents, and it's such an honorable mission that you're on to now help other people understand what they went through and what you're going through in order for them to get sovereignty over their own body and be their own patient advocate, because that is a difficult thing in the day and age that we're in right now. And when you don't have the knowledge, you don't feel secure enough to be able to say, listen, I don't agree with what you're saying. And you don't have enough education to be able to say, why don't we do this? Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that I come in, because whether it's about worms or mold or heavy metals, I'm arming people with information so they feel validated and confident to go to their doctor, who should be listening, and help them. And if they're not listening, the person feels confident enough to leave and say, listen, you're not giving me what I need. It sounds kind of crazy, but they work for you. And you need to know when you should step in and say, I don't think that's right. But if you're not knowledgeable of the things that go on with your body, you're not going to do that. But we all should be doing that. Yeah. And it doesn't make you a bad patient. It just makes you accountable for your own body, because at the end of the day, you got 5-10 minutes of that doctor's time and they're going to another patient. You have to sit with what they told you. You have to lay your head down at night and say, I believe everything they said, or I don't think so, and I'm going to go ahead and find out what's wrong.
Yeah. What's standing out to me, we had a real estate expert on the other day on the show, and he talked about service over sales. Mm-hmm. And in that alignment, he had this 3-prong approach. Number 1 was, are you trustworthy? Number 2, are you good at what you do? Number 3 is, do you care? And what I'm seeing is this influx, or this super highlight in bold of, are you good at what you do? I want to be the best doctor in the world. I want to serve the most patients, and I'm going to listen to the medical director, and I'm going to go through the channels to have the most billing and blah, 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 blah. And because the time domain with a doctor is, as you mentioned, 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to be really fast and rapid going through their paperwork. And then I'm going to have this app and this AI tool. So that way I can be rapid and I can be efficient. So at the end of this quarter, I show an increase in sales. I get the bonus. Then I can take care of my family. I can pay off student loans. And then as a byproduct, I can retire early. That's the incentive model that we're playing with. Mm-hmm. And what's challenging about that is it removes the bookended things of what I said, which is, are you trustworthy? Well, I want to say yes. I think most doctors become doctors for the right reasons. But when you look at the education system, you look at the fucking food pyramid.
Yeah.
You look at where the money's going. You look at, I mean, we're gonna have an hour plus conversation today. It takes time to get to the roots, but when you take away that time, you can't see as many patients. It's not monetizing, and so we need to fix that system. It's not efficient enough, and then it shows on the back end that most doctors eventually get to the point where they stop caring because of the pressure from medical directors, hospital owners, to really push sick care instead of healthcare. And then the incentive model is to see as many patients and prescribe and go through the health insurance channels. It's a disaster. And then as a byproduct, people end up thinking, the system's too big. I can't fight it. I'm just going to surrender to it because if I don't have health insurance, then I'm going to get penalized on my taxes. And then people just go, you know what? I want a peaceful life. I don't want to get involved in politics or healthcare. It's too much for me. So I'm just going to let them do their thing and I'm just going to fall in line with the system. Meanwhile, they're getting worms. They're getting parasites. They're waking up groggy. They've got joint pain. They've got brain fog. They can't do the things that they love. And they end up being this victim to the cyclical nature of the matrix. And I don't think that it has to be that way. I think we can do it better. And I think you're on pace to create education, awareness, and products where people can simply say, I can take control of my health, my well-being, and my mindset.
Mm-hmm. And also, their big P is involved in a lot of these things that they're doing. So big pharma, and they are somewhat owned. Literally, they're not allowed to give doctors money, but they'll do trips and they'll do dinners and they'll educate, but then everything revolves around the medication in which the pharmaceutical rep comes in and gives samples. And I mean, all my pens were from Pfizer. So you look at it in a different way when you come from the field, which is where I'm from. You look at it in such a different way because I'm looking around and my clocks say Abbott and, all Merck, and they're involved so heavily within the doctor's scripts, if that all makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it really is a scenario where the doctors are not getting a financial kickback, but they're getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner at their facility and the holidays and gifts. And it really becomes a thing after a period of time. And I've worked in many, many facilities with different doctors. I worked as a medical specialist for almost 20 years. And so I know what it looks like on that side of things. And the patient doesn't necessarily see it, right? But you do as a personnel inside of a facility, and not necessarily just medical directors or hospitals. It really is that scenario where a pharmaceutical rep comes in, educates, says, this is the gold standard. This is what, so then the doctor's like, oh, this is a gold standard. This is what the next best thing. But no one is stopping and actually looking at what's going on with the patient. We look at symptoms and then we look at what prescription needs to be for that symptom, not even looking at what other side effects could be a problem. And that's what happened to me. Even being in the field, even with being valedictorian in 2 of my healthcare degrees, running 25 medical colleges, and working in the field, I still did not know everything I know now. And it wasn't because I wasn't smart. It was because it's so much more than what one person's mind could actually handle, And so I think that's why I do this with such a smile. because who wants to hop on and be like, salmon, and then not be smiling about it and laughing about it? And it's because as humans, we need to not be afraid. We need to know that this is our body, and we got to take care of it. And that means that you got to go and clean the dirt, which is worms and mold and environmental toxins. And it's a huge miss because they're so focused on making sure that they get the right pill in you, that insurance is covering everything. I was an insurance and coding billing specialist. So I understand all the back end, and then I also understand all the patient care side of things. And I was a patient, almost died myself. So there's like all these things that came together to crown me the worm queen.
I love it. It almost sounds to me that you didn't choose this path. It chose you. Like you were honestly
100%.
like in it to serve and kind of follow the traditional medical wellness path of service. But what was the moment you realized something was really living inside of you and running the show? And how did you develop the agency and the trust and the bravery to pivot and jump into this path, knowing that very well it's going to put a target on your back?
2019 really was my pivotal moment and my aha moment. And then 2021 was my viral moment where I just pulled the Band-Aid off and said, I know what I'm doing. I have confidence in myself. But from 2019 to July of 21, I fought for my life. Like literally, my husband and I sold everything. We live in Washington. We just finished a beautiful remodel in our home. I just graduated from college for my second degree, and I started to decline rapidly. I had 13 surgeries and a hysterectomy when I was 29 years old. I don't have any children. I had been in chemical menopause twice, and now I'm in surgical menopause. I'm 47 years old. So it's been a really long personal battle with endometriosis, beginning stages of cervical cancer, adenomyosis. I was misdiagnosed. I have chronic Lyme. I've had it since I was around 13 years old. I was born into mold. All of these things I found out in the last few years. Because these are such taboo subjects in Western medicine, I had to completely remove myself from society, go out to my recreational piece of property in Hoodsport, Washington, outskirts of the Hoh Rainforest, and really figure out what was wrong with me. I was dying. My husband and I knew it. Things were not looking good for me, and I could not get anyone to help me. All my surgeons basically abandoned me. They didn't know what else to help me with. I stopped pooping for a month, and they were like, take some psyllium husk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, that's it? So I started taking mushrooms. I did functional mushrooms. I did psychedelics because I needed to reconnect with who I am as a soul to this body, not just Kim, right? I needed to know what was wrong with me. And if I'm going to say goodbye, I fought every moment I could. And then I didn't leave my husband abandoned with mortgage and debt, because being chronically ill is expensive. I mean, it is very expensive. So I wanted to make sure he was set. So we went out there and we got our log home started, and we really were focused so heavily on fixing me and figuring out what was wrong with me because no one else was. And so if I'm in this situation after 20 years of being in the medical field, having all this knowledge, can you imagine how everyone else feels? Because I see it every day. I mean, I do this specifically for my community, for people around me. And I just happen to be able to start a business and be able to financially afford to do all of the things so that I can talk about it. But if I didn't know these things, how is anyone else going to know these things? They're just so buried deep down in the history of parasites and mold, and other countries do this and we're not allowed to talk about it, and you can't go to your doctor, or you become the crazy, worm lady. And you're just like, no, that's just not it at all. It's literally something that is affecting us in different forms that we're not talking about. Yeah. It is so important to know that you are exposed daily if you have pets. You're exposed to parasites in your water. We had worms in our water. When I went viral, I just went all in. And I have actually done this, talked about it every day since July 18th of 2021. I've never taken a day off. I think I've figured out that I've talked about this 1,466 times since I went viral. I talk it every day because it's so important to know that you're not that ill, that you really can take some herbs and just kind of see, is your root cause parasites? Is your root cause mold? Is your root cause Lyme? And if you can check those boxes off and then you start feeling better, there's ways that you can then keep your health like that. And that's what I'm trying to teach everyone, is that we don't have to be ill. We don't have to be a sick society. We don't need to be in sick care. They want us in sick care. So it's up to you to fix that for yourself and your family around you and your friends. A ripple effect is what we've done. And I'm seeing a huge ripple effect the last couple of months, actually. It's been fun.
So
Thanks for letting me go on
inspiring.
my soapbox. TED Talk.
That was so good, though. It's great to gather that context. And I also think sometimes psychedelics get judged. But in my
Mm-hmm.
in my thought process, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you operate too long and too identity focused on the human component, you fall into the trap of our systemic problems. You're like, well, I'm just like everybody else. Let me just go do this. But I love that there was an intuition and a voice inside of you that was like, no, I think there's something else here. And I think the psychedelic journeys unlock some of those trap doors to be a little disruptive and get us to think differently and challenge the normalcy, realizing that doctors are humans also. They don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
know if they're being trained by big pharma and medical schools and the research is all skewed towards profit. I can actually challenge that a little bit, take ownership and control of my life because I've tried every other way. And I mean, you know this, entrepreneurship 101, find what works and do more of it. The
Mm-hmm.
difficulty is you're in physical, mental, and emotional pain for 20 plus years, squeezing the juice out of the financial box. Before we dive into some of the specifics and the defining of mold toxicity and parasites and all that, how did you navigate that mentally? Feeling lonely, isolated, misunderstood, feeling like you were a very well-educated woman after all of your education, but not being able to find the answer and being told to take psyllium husk or just, fall in line. And this is a psychosomatic issue. I'm sure you got that too.
Mm-hmm.
How was the mental battle there? And what advice would you give to other people that are maybe trying to find the root cause of all their different health and wellness issues, but maybe don't have the financial resources and kind of just want to accept this is the way it is, or maybe they want to give up?
Well, I got off of all of my big pharma meds. I was on Klonopin after 22 years. So not only was I navigating my body that was failing me, but I also was getting off of the one thing that was, I thought at the time, was helping my nervous system when really it was harming my nervous system. And that's why I did mushrooms, because I needed to reconnect. And I feel like people can relate to that because I think almost all of society at this point is on some sort of pharmaceutical, right? Like that's the part that's the hardest. So my suggestion is obviously always have your practitioner. I have a lot of practitioners that I see personally, my own personal doctors in my link tree. I have all of the information for people that will actually believe you, listen to you more than 5 minutes. And I feel like that's kind of the first step, is just getting someone that's going to hold your hand and that you trust. And then you can kind of explore exactly what else this looks like for you as a human and for you as being your own patient advocate. I feel like a lot of people can understand that we've been lied to about herbs and what herbs can really do for you. And I feel like once that understanding comes about in your mind and you get the downloads and you figure out that cleansing is important, it really helps you navigate your mental health. My mental health was trash. It's actually what made me start looking at more information about what was going on with me. I had done all of these journeys for like a year every day. I mean, I would do mushrooms every day. I would take breaks on like Fridays. I mean, it was just like I stayed on a structural pattern in order for me to be able to see what the healing process looked like. Right. So after I did a lot of mushrooms and I would get the downloads, I would then implement what I was like understanding and unlocking in my body. But my mental health still wasn't where I wanted it. And that's what made me find out about worms, and that they can hold on to trauma, and that they can hold on to those memories, and they can hold on to all of the things that voice that you think is you inside of your head. It's not you. Right. And I think that once I realized that, there was like a switch that went in my mind. And then I scrolled and I found this one girl that said she almost unalived herself over worms. And she was holding up this tincture. And she was like, after just doing this, my whole life and my whole mind has changed. And I'm like, well, I mean, I want to do that. Like, I
For
want to
sure.
see that. I've never done this before.
Mm-hmm. When you were going through that, I'm sure you got pushback from, higher level doctors and whatnot that said things like this. Oh, that protocol is not FDA approved. There's no clinical
Right.
trials. And they kind of shunned you with skeptic energy. How did you create the barrier there and not allow that a permission slip to live in your headspace as you were navigating these different protocols? Because it'd be very easy to be like, oh, I got these downloads. I'm going to start on this path. I'm sort of feeling better. But you know what? This person's the expert and they say it doesn't work, so I'm going to trust them. It's difficult to like go in, but also go out. We'll talk about water here shortly. And like, it penetrates the skin, energies, your environment, grounding, what you're around, pets, food. There's so many different things. How were you able to stay so strong on your path when I'm sure people were telling you to make a U-turn or take a detour?
I'm the expert. I'm the expert over my own health. I'm the expert on anything that I believe I need to do. And I know, and I'm confident in what I'm doing. And so the moment that I went viral and the moment I started reading the comments in my viral video, and I realized that I am an expert in medicine, and I might not be an expert in worms at that time, but I am an expert in the human body. So much so that I was running 25 medical colleges, and I was a professor, and I was writing curriculum, and Cengage and Pearson and McGraw-Hill, I was an author for them, and I was a subject matter expert, which means when I would read the book, if I felt like that needed to be taken out, I was the last word and it was taken out. So I already had that confidence. I just didn't have that confidence for myself. And so when I went viral, I stopped for a moment, not even very long. I'm talking like an hour. And then I just went for it. I made 10 videos the day I went viral because I really am an expert to the human body. And I was valedictorian in both of my degrees. So I really like dug in, and I ignored the naysayers in my comments. And in my mind, I thought, thank you for pushing me through the algorithm. Keep it up. I'm not reading and I'm not absorbing what you're saying because I know what I'm saying. I know I'm right. I know what I'm doing is the right path for me in the moments, right? And I've never looked back. I have so many naysayers still, but I'm right. Like, I know what I saw. I know what I see every day. I know what I'm doing is helping others. I see it in myself. I can show my before and after. What I've done is so extremely different, but I am such a different person. And that's all that matters. And all I can do is just talk about my experience to help others. So if they want to come in, and I've had the FDA come after us, I know what it looks like to train labs, right? So I know that our testing is not correct in our society. I know herbs work. And so I'm just very confident in what I'm doing and what I'm saying. So anyone can come to me and say that I'm wrong, which they do often, daily. But I know what I'm doing is correct. So I think that just standing in my light has been very helpful in those moments.
That's so empowering. I appreciate you sharing that. It's
Mhm.
interesting too, because it sounds to me that the viral thing was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back that like allowed you to then fully take the leap.
Mhm.
But up until that point, you still had this reservoir of proof of like, oh my gosh, like I've got valedictorian on 2 different degrees, worked in this field, been around that field. Like you're just downloading all of the protocols, you're seeing the testing, you're understanding, you're not just, I made a viral video and now here I am. It wasn't the social media box check that allowed you to then dive in. That was just the
Mhm.
final thing that just really colored that confidence for you to then be like, no, I have all these other things too that add to my credibility. And we're seeing this not only help me after 20 years, but now I've got one really strong case study that is going to diffuse and, like you said, be a ripple effect amongst communities and hopefully beyond.
Yeah. I'm that case study.
Yeah.
Literally, I've recorded myself every day since that day.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch my healing. You can see everything I'm doing. I share it. It's why I created a podcast and why I do all these podcasts as well, and why I create content, because you can watch my healing. You can go back to the day I went viral and see a huge difference in what I'm doing with my body. But I think that people need that proof, right? Because you can't see inside of your body. So they're very skeptical
Mm-hmm.
of everything. But when you have one person that's the case study showing themselves and showing up every day and saying, like, just do this kit for 30 days and just see what happens. You know, it could be this, do this 3 to 4 times a year. Like, I make it simple. I want people to do it, not be afraid of it. And I feel like that part of it has validated what everything I've said as well, and everything that I'm doing to show society that I'm going to continue to show up for them. And I think that all of those extra things that I've done in my life just prepared me for this. And I feel like there couldn't have been anyone else that could have come and been the worm queen like myself, because I do hold all of that, and I am a trusted medical personnel. I just don't always align with everything that they're saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. I also think it's awesome that you've made humor your default emotion. You laugh through it, you laugh through the comments, and you realize, no, I'm onto something here, and it's only a matter of time where we go viral in another capacity. I think Brigham Bueller's also helping with this a little bit. The gentleman that
Mhm.
runs Ways to Well, that's been on Rogan and talked to Congress. I think RFK Jr. is making some push things here,
Mhm.
seeing the toxicity with a lot of vaccines.
Well, he has neurocystic sarcoma, which is a tapeworm in the brain. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's talked about it. He has a dead worm that ate part of his brain in his brain from undercooked pork.
Yeah.
Like, you can't deny that this is really a thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, you're
when
spot on.
people say RFK Jr., I get to jump on that, because he literally, and Ted, they all had tapeworms in their brain. And it is affecting them as a human. And even though the worm is no longer producing up to 1 million eggs a day and has 46 uteruses, which is a tapeworm in one segment,
Mm.
it really is an issue. And pork has parasites. It's because pigs don't have a lymphatic system to push the toxins out, and they only have one stomach. So there's no filtration, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger because of all the toxins inside of their body. And then we eat them. I still eat meat. I don't eat bacon anymore. I don't eat pork anymore. I don't eat salmon, which makes me really sad, because I just know too much at this point. I don't eat undercooked meat of any kind. I don't eat raw, because of everything that I do know. I only eat cooked food. And so it's like, when they come out and they say these things about their own health, if you can go back and in your mind and think, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is legit. This isn't just something coming out and being like, oh yeah, we have worms. Other countries cleanse. And I feel like when I went viral and then I started researching other people's medical, Germany, they use wormwood. They use it for their MS patients. Well, why? Wormwood is an anti-parasitic. So what are they showing? All of the synthetics that were out in 2020 and 2021, Ivor, they're using those are anti-parasitics. Why? Why are they using an anti-parasitic? Is your root cause an as a parasite? You know what I'm saying? When you use an anti-parasitic, which is a frequency, when you're using that to help an ailment in your body, your root cause is usually what the frequency of that medication is. And that's all that they're doing is they've identified what ailment you have, and then they bring in a medication or an herb to treat that ailment. So it's kind of like when the opera singer sings and she shatters that glass, she got her frequency of her voice to the same as the glass to shatter it. That's all we're doing in medicine. We've identified the ailment, and then we turn around and we bring in what frequency it is that we need to treat that ailment with. And that's why we've gone so viral at RogersHood, is because of the fact that I know what the ailments are because I went through it. You know, I went through heavy metal detoxing while parasite cleansing, while getting candida because of the wrong type of parasite cleanse, and then binding. Western medicine doesn't use charcoal unless you've overdosed or you've done some sort of alcohol, and you bring charcoal in for that. Well, you take a microdose of charcoal while you're cleansing and your symptoms become better. So you're using that frequency of the charcoal to go in and assist with removing anything that could drop back into your body when you're cleansing. So it really is a process of what's the problem, what's the herb, and how do you mitigate all of it? And when you know the body and you know pharmacy and you know that type of medicine, it's a simple solution in people's minds like mine. But when you're never dealt with all of this, you're just easy to be skeptical over it. However, all of these herbs are here for a reason, right? Other countries like Mexico, they do this 2 to 3 times a year. They don't have nearly the sickness that we have. Other countries like Jamaica, they do a tea called the bush, and they do that once a month. The Amish do this. Like, it's such a non-taboo subject for other countries, but it's very much a taboo subject in the 3 top Western medicine countries, the United States, Canada, and Australia. Those are the top 3 places that we sell our product to. And I'm really fortunate to get to see all of that so that I can go research, well, why is Canada number 1 for us or number 2 for us, right? In RogersHood. And it's specifically because we're under the Western medicine umbrella. And that means that we're not open to understanding any other medicine, and that we want to stay a sick country. We don't want to progress into having a better understanding of our bodies, when really we should be the number 1 with wellness, right? For as much as we spend with insurance and medicine, and we should not have to be like, well, if I get cancer, am I going to survive? Like, we should be like, we're good, right? But we're very much not. And that's an unfortunate thing. And I'm so glad we have some politicians that are stepping in and saying, this needs to be done this way. This is how you need to handle it. And we're going to take control now because you've all been lied to. And that's really what they're doing. And I love it. I just hate that medicine was political, because we've been taught in our college and our field that you're not allowed to bring in your beliefs when it comes to medicine. Like, you have to stand by and not give your opinion. And I think that that's why this has gone so viral for everyone, is because in 2020, we were, where we were in 2020. And then in 2021, when I started going viral, people wanted that alternative. They wanted to know how to keep sovereignty over our own body. And so I know that that's why this has blown up so much, is that was the peak time. People were at home. They were already going down the wormhole when it comes to conspiracies. This isn't a conspiracy. And I think coming from Western medicine, like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't understand why this has been such a big thing, because like, we saw it every day. Like, this was a thing that we saw: scabies, lice, worms, candida, giardia. Like, all these things are things that are like a normal thing, but society doesn't think that they're normal. So then it went wild viral.
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year: that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level. Yeah, I think you're spot on that society doesn't think they're normal things in the day-to-day because they're not really seen, they're not talked about, they're not pushed by the media narrative. There's so many different angles that we can explore here, but something that comes to mind is 3 big thought leaders have been very sick, and that is Tony Robbins in the past when he had his metal toxicity. Mm-hmm. He's spoken highly and prevalently about that detox changing his life. He was eating way too much seafood, way too much salmon, and then was getting metal toxicity, and I'm sure worms too. And right now, we're seeing Jordan Peterson very sick from mold toxicity. And then we're seeing Chris Williamson, who's battling Lyme disease and mold toxicity. And they're going through all the different protocols. They have access to the best doctors in the world. They've had some of the best experts on their shows. I wonder if they should talk to you.
They should.
Like, I think those would be really good people to have on your podcast or you be on their podcast because, you know, aside from name dropping and the notoriety that comes with that, it's more so just caring for people. You don't want to see people sick. You don't want to see people hurting. And I think it's just a fascinating dichotomy to think these people have access to the best. They're very smart individuals and they're suffering. And that might be because they're pushed in this lens, hey, go try this, go try that. And they're not looking over here because it seems taboo, it seems woo-woo, it seems like it's outdated, but it's really just using what's worked for years, but is a lot more affordable, which is so interesting to me that we wouldn't push something that's more affordable.
Or just, I think, logical to think that it's just herbs that are going in and your body can actually process them. So it doesn't matter how much money you spend and all of the things that you do. If you have toxic overload in your body from an environmental toxin that your body doesn't know how to deal with, it doesn't matter anything else that you do. If you're not going in and cleaning out your dirt, going in and cleaning out the root of your body, you are just wasting your money. That's my opinion. From what I've done in my life, that's exactly what the changes were for me. Is I needed to go in. I was doing mushrooms and I was doing all the supplements, but I still wasn't at the optimal level. And as far as heavy metals go, that's why I included a heavy metal detox inside of the ParaFy kit. And that's specifically because heavy metals weight down these environmental toxins like worms. And when you go and you start releasing the heavy metals, you then release the worms. The problem is if you don't bring in an herb like Oregon grapefruit or wormwood while you're releasing the heavy metals, they're going to lay eggs. They're going to dump their eggs when they become fear and you become inhospitable for them. They start dumping their spring, right? Their offspring, because they want to keep going. And they're smart. They're alive and they're in a frequency inside of our bodies. So when you remove those heavy metals, they're just going to dump more and you actually are going to be in a hamster wheel and your body just stays in fight or flight because they've hijacked our nervous system. So you have to do it in conjunction with each other. And that's why the kit was so different or is so different than what other kits are about or just doing a parasite cleanse, because you do have to do it synergistically. And then you can go in and start targeting just heavy metals or mold. And because I also had mold poisoning while we were building our log home, we were living in mold. And I created a mold kit specifically because I was dying in my trailer. We got all the parasites. We figured it all out. And then all of a sudden, I'm still sick. I lost half my hair. My eyes swelled shut. Mold is a beast. I was born in mold. Now I know more about mold. I'm a mold expert. And it's because of the fact that I had to go through that as well. But you have to work on the parasites first, in my opinion. And that's because they can hold 6 to 8 times their weight in spores, viruses, heavy metals, other parasites. They hold on to toxins. And when you go and unalive them, they dump all of that. And if you're not going in with specific herbs, you're going to have that load stay in your body and you're just going to stay in a hamster wheel. Your nervous system is going to stay in fight or flight. You're going to constantly be going through it. You have to go in and bring all of these things in when you start tackling environmental toxins. And there's nothing else we can do differently than just to be aware and be proactive. We're eating the food that's toxic. We're doing our best to mitigate the situations. It's just unfortunate that there's just one little piece in this wellness world that, since doing this for 4 years, is missing. That's this. You should start with a parasite cleanse. You should start with cleaning your soil and making sure that that's maybe your only root cause. Maybe you just have a really bad systematic candida, which is overgrowth of yeast and it's a parasite. Maybe you have Giardia and don't know it, which is microscopic. Maybe you have a tapeworm and it's been living in you for years and that's why you're malnourished. At least I know I was malnourished from flukes, roundworm, and pinworms. They were absorbing all of my nutrients. They can take 90% of your nutrients. And so even when you're doing these cleanses, you're not getting the full boom of that cleanse, right? If you're not going in and cleaning out your soil and then starting over. That's really what this is. I always recommend doing ParaFy 2 to 3 times before you do a mold cleanse, because you do the mold cleanse and you're only getting a part of those spores that are living inside of this house. So a lot of people don't fully grasp the concept. When you have a parasite or you have environmental toxins, they're in a hard shell. It's called biofilm, and it's as hard as the outside of an egg. And it can only be an enter. So it steals your nutrients and then you have to break that biofilm in order to expose them. So you have to burn their house down and expose them and then pull them out one by one. And in order to do that, you got to have all the herbs. You got to have that frequency that's going in and saying, all right, I burned your house down, heavy metals. I burned your house down, worms. I burned your house down, mold. Now I'm going to pluck you off one by one. So you're going into war, but you got to have the right tools, right? You can't just go into a gunfight with a knife. You have to go in there and really get after it. And then you can go in and go, all right, I got most of you cleared out. The party's over. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to pluck you out even more individually. And then that's when you go in and start working on liver cleanses and kidney cleanses and mold cleanses. Because if you're not even breaking that biofilm down and exposing them, you're not doing what needs to be done. And a lot of people don't realize you got to bring that biofilm herb in with all of these cleanses. And that's where the miss is, in my opinion. And so I researched and I found lungwort lichen, which is a very old Native American herb that's on a tree that helps the tree breathe and it breaks the mucus down of the tree and it allows it to live within a toxic environment, because lungwort lichen looks like a hand with little warts and it stays on the tree and breathes for the tree. And so it's breaking down before the tree even gets the toxins touching it. The lungwort lichen is filtering it and it's breaking down any of the biofilm. And I brought that into our kit because I didn't do all of these things when I first went viral. I just did a parasite cleanse and it ripped me up. I only did one tincture and then I started bringing in Oregon grapefruit because that's another antiparasitic. It's a burbine. It helps with inflammation. And then I brought in usnea, which is Mother Nature's doxycycline, and it helps curb your appetite because when you're cleansing, you're always hungry and it's because they're wanting to be fed. They don't want to die. They want to steal your nutrients. So it's really a system. So I heard about Jordan and I'm thinking, man, he really needs to do a parasite cleanse first and then tackle the mold. I have 11 active molds in my body. I've done so many things for mold. It's unbelievable. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through. Mold is the the hardest. It messes with your mind. It causes inflammation. It causes sensitivity. But if you are fighting a parasite and the mold, the reason why a lot of people don't like to say do parasite cleansing first is because wormwood suppresses mold spores. But when you know that you're living in mold and when you know that there's mold in your body, you want to suppress it. You want it to stop colonizing inside of your body. When you cut your body in half and you flip it and you look at it, literally what's inside of our body and our cells when you have mold looks just like the wall. And I think that we have a hard time in society thinking about it that way because we can't see inside. But the spores are needles and they get into your cells and then they grab a hold and they stay and then they colonize. But when you can slow that process down with wormwood, which is what's in ParaFy, it will actually help your immune system ramp back up. You do a few cycles of a parasite cleanse. You dump as many of the bodies in your body as possible. And then you come in and you start working on the spores. I brought in herbs that help mitigate the situation with mold, but also then you can pivot to a mold cleanse and have a much better cleanse. Mold cleansing is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I still do it a few times a year. Mm-hmm. Does that all make sense with the body?
It absolutely makes sense. I think it's going to be a lot for people to digest. So I want to get into it with you. I think it's important that we define the enemy before we go to battle. Right. Yeah. And so when you say parasite, what are we actually talking about? Is it worms? Is it fungi? Is it bacteria? Is it mold? Or is it all the above? Let's start with defining a parasite for people.
So the definition of a parasite is anything that feeds off a host. And the Latin term is an unwanted dinner guest. So it's so gross. So basically it's things like Giardia, D. fragilis, crypto. Those are microscopic protozoas. You can't see them. Mostly they're found in water. I had Cryptosporidium parvium, which is parvo, which kills puppies. And a lot of people will hear about parvo, right? But we can get it from sitting water. We can get it in our water. We put chlorine in our water, but it actually thrives in chlorine. So it's not like that kills it. And I think a lot of misconceptions are that our water is not contaminated and that they do everything they can to clean it. And so that's not the truth. And then you have things like nematodes, which are physical worms like tapeworm, roundworm, pinworm, whipworm, hookworm. And those particular things are also in our water, but our country does not test for nematodes. And I had nematodes in my water. I had larvae roundworm in my water, which was a well, but it was a community well. And so thousands of people in Hoodsport are contaminated by that well, and they just don't believe that this is a thing, It's crazy. So those are the things that I talk mostly about. But then you have scabies and lice and all of those things. Candida feeds off of you, so that's why it's considered a parasite. Mold and fungus are not considered parasites. They're different, but they're within the environmental toxin world of how, like 70 to 75% of our buildings in the United States have mold in them. Black toxic mold, not just a little mold. And black toxic mold is the death mold. So if 75% of our buildings have that, you go in, you take a deep breath, and you have a parasite. The moment that you breathe and the spores go down in your body and start to absorb in your blood, your tissue, and your muscle, all of a sudden they're going to capture that and they're going to be like, hey, friend, how have you been? All right, let's party in this beautiful mansion that we're in, right? So if you think about any time you're exposed to these things and you're not constantly cleansing out your body, they're living in it. They're hanging out. And this isn't a fear thing. This is just, you really need to know you have to be proactive. And that goes for anything that you do, any food you eat, anywhere you go. I eat questionably. I'm really conscientious about cleansing because I know that if I go into a moldy building, I'm susceptible to having symptoms because of mold exposure, right?
Help walk us through it. Like, how do parasites actually enter our bodies? Is it food, water, animals, environment? I've seen some of your videos where you've talked about salmon. You briefly mentioned about undercooked food. Some people are always like, yeah, I love to ground, but it matters. Like the cleanliness of the ground that you're on, it shouldn't be, covered in where animals defecate and pee and all those things, because that can obviously enter the system as well. Let's create awareness around, how these parasites get into our system. And also it gives you like the EBGBs. You're like, should I just not touch anything? Should I not drink water? Like, I feel like our listeners are just going to be like, okay, we've identified everyone has parasites. Let's understand how they get in there now, and let's figure out how to get rid of them so that way they can live their lives.
It really is. I think at the beginning, when people first go down the wormhole, they start to kind of get, oh my God, I can't do anything. But you really can once you know, and there's actually a solution. It really is something that is an easy fix. And I made it as simple as possible, by the way. Like when this all started, and I'm going to answer your question because I love your question. When I made the kit, it was because my husband needed a cleanse, and he's a man. We were building a log home. It's 3 tinctures. You take 3 times a day for 30 days, and you bind at night, and you repeat every 3 to 4 times a year. I mean, I made it as simple as possible. I know how society is, right? I worked with society in the medicine world.
If there's not convenience and compliance, people aren't going to do it. And the compliance is the science.
Yep. And anything you do over 21 days makes or breaks a habit. And so that's why I made it 30, because I wanted you to get past at 21 days, your brain has done a switch. Mm-hmm. And so there's an easier way for you to continue to want to do it. And you start to feel better. Like, man, why be sick when there's solutions out there to not be sick anymore that are simple and $100? Like I made it cheap because of the fact, and we make it ourselves. Just so you guys know, we have a 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility that we built ourselves. And we have 40 employees that we do all of this ourselves. There is not a lab. The herbs are organic. We soak them. This is the way our ancestors did it. We process the tinctures ourselves. We do everything ourselves. And we did that to keep control, to be able to make sure that our recipe never changes, that nothing gets in it that isn't supposed to be in it, and that we have full control and full accountability. I mean, that's what's really important about the day and age we're in now, is that I'm accountable for everything RogersHood does because I am RogersHood. And so I'm not going to have something made in a lab and then be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what's going to heal your body. So I want to be as accountable and transparent as possible. So I'm constantly making sure that any adjustments that need to be made, and that we get third party tested. And if something comes back, which it never has, that it's within compliance and we're on the FDA registry. And, I want full control over this after I went viral. I don't want to ever question anything I'm putting in my body, let alone what I'm talking about as well. So just for the listeners, that's why I'm so strong about having a company. And let me tell you, it is a lot. I mean, I went from dying in the woods to running a huge manufacturing. We have over 1 million followers, because this is such an important topic and I have a solution. So I didn't want to talk about something that I didn't have a solution, or I was relying on someone else's solution. And that's what kind of happened is the first kit, the first tincture I took, they couldn't tell me why there was natural ingredients and what they were. And they also wouldn't tell me why they used caramel coloring. And I'm like, but if you soak the herbs, it's its own color and it's in a amber bottle. So I don't know why you feel like you should have to use synthetic driven things. And so at that moment I had a light bulb. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I got to do this myself.
real quickly on that note.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in the world is, if you can't explain it to a third grader, you probably don't really understand it. And when you look at supplements and a lot of medical processes, you ask questions and you get terrible answers. Oh, it's just a proprietary blend. Okay, that's a nice big word, but what's in the proprietary blend? What does that mean? Why are there artificial colors or natural colors or artificial sweeteners or things that are masked with elevated medical jargon and language to create confusion, to get people to not actively ask or participate. Or sometimes I'll ask researchers different questions and they get into the meat and potatoes of the candida and microscopic this and all the fancy words. And then they're like, yeah, it's a whole process. And I'm like, it's designed to be confusing so you can keep monetizing every single angle. And usually the people that are giving me those types of answers, they're manipulated themselves because they're incentivized to actively participate in that research or in that field because they're getting funding, which means somebody else is in control. That's what's very interesting to me about this is, you know, in running a business and whatnot, like people have come and wanted to invest in ALLSMITH or these different things, and I'm sure you've had it too. But the moment you take that money, you sign over some of the control.
Yep.
And I think it's very interesting. I want to hear first about how parasites enter our bodies, but I do want to revisit the business ideology with you and how you and your husband were able to get this off the ground, because it's a big, hairy, audacious goal that requires a lot of money and a lot of passion. And it's probably a lot easier if you take that early money to try to do what you want. But then somewhere along the way, there's some smoke and mirrors that ends up not being exactly in accordance to what you started it for.
Yep, that's true. And we were really fortunate that we didn't have any money. Just we started this business from the few $1,000s that I had for my countertops in my log home. So not only were we still living in a moldy travel trailer, starting this business, because it was 2021, December of 21. I went viral in July, and by December I started a business. And a gal that I met on TikTok who also is chronically ill, she had like this little 175 square foot, we call it a shop, but it was really a 1-car garage in the back of her house and in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And that's why our manufacturing facility is in Jonesboro and I'm in Seattle, is because we started it in her backyard with countertop money. I was willing to give up my countertops for the business, because if it failed, at least I'd have like a lifetime supply of parasite cleansing. That's really what we went in and did. We were like, all right, well, we sold 500 kits the first hour. So that was very far from where we were. We've sold 250,000 kits in the last 4 years. We've not even a full 4 years. We're 4 years on December 19th of this year. So we have run. When I say I've been doing this every day, we literally, and then we went to like a 2,400 square foot manufacturing facility. And then we added 1,000 square feet onto that. And then last June, we opened up our 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And then 3 months ago, we had to build 2,500 square feet of storage. So we bought like 3.5 acres of land and we just built it. When I say we built it ourselves, we literally built it ourselves. It's all custom. I have custom machinery that's being made. I have custom machinery from China that has been shipped and landed yesterday. So it's one of my favorite things to do. I've developed a few other people's companies when I ran colleges, and I actually started their campuses from ground up. So I know I'm standing in my light. I know I'm standing where I'm supposed to be, because all of the things I did before, it's been an easy implementation for me to do this on my own company and have pride in what I'm doing, because I know what we're doing is the right way. And everyone around us knows it's the right way. And I just want that transparency for any company that I come in contact with. I feel like we need to have more of that from the wellness community as well. So that's, I feel like the business side of things, it's amazing. There's 4 of us that do this with 40 team members. And so we're definitely not doing this alone anymore, but we were for a long time at the beginning. And I would like wake up and I would be in the most pain and I would get going because I needed to show up every day for my community. That's what this has always been about. Being chronically ill is lonely. Having no answers is lonely. And I asked the universe when I was going through this to please provide me with a community that will not just understand, but that I can actually give my knowledge to so that they have a better life as well.
So powerful.
But going back
and
to
inspiring.
what?
Like, it's so powerful and inspiring. I'm pumped for you.
Thanks. It's been fun. I mean, it's much better than dying in the woods. And that's what we joke around all the time. And I mean, I've grieved over the fact that like my cells thought they were dying and that they really were. I mean, I was very ill. I was very, very ill. I'm going to show you guys how sick I really was because I take pride in what I've done for my body, specifically because it is really hard to take this all on and not have like professionals that you think are professionals helping you. But that was me.
Wow. Bring it a little closer so people can really see it on YouTube. Wow, you can see the huge difference in like the pigment of your skin.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, very cool.
I was a snowboarder. I was a roller derby girl. So when I say like I worked 80 hours a week, I ran college, like I went to school at night. When I was a high performer and when I started to decline, my husband knew something was really wrong with me. When I was like, I just can't anymore because I've run like the way I run now my whole life. And then there were moments that the mold started taking me out and the worms started taking me out. One of the ways that you can get parasites is through your pets. And I had 3 dogs and one of my dogs had worms and I had the same worms as my dog. And now I know that I caught a lot of issues from having dogs while living in a moldy house that we were remodeling. So it really is easy to go from the top performance. You get yourself into a bad environment, not on purpose. I mean, I'm thinking I'm doing all the right things. We flipped homes and, we had pets and dewormed my dogs a few times, but I just never dewormed myself. And that's what my video was when I went viral. I'm like, I've been in Western medicine for 18 years and I've never dewormed myself until now. And just the whole thought process that it's this simple and that you can go in and do this because I was eating sushi and I was eating salmon and I did eat pork and I had pets and I would go out and ground in areas that weren't clean. I went on a podcast and I was talking about how you have to ground and I go, you grounders don't come at me because I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. And the guy I was podcasting with looked at me and he goes, oh my God, I like ground while I'm cleaning up my dog's poop. And I'm like, so you're walking in like the poop. And then he found out his dog had parasites. And I'm like, well, you have the same ones, friend. Like you just need to keep cleansing and you deworm your dog and you deworm yourself and you deworm your cat and you deworm yourself and, your whole family. You all share the same microbiome, including your dog. Your dog is licking you. Your dog is laying with you. Your dog is cuddling with you after it just licked its butt and went outside and ate other dogs' poop and roamed around on dirt, which worms are in dirt. I mean, there's hookworm. And if you Google things about hookworm, you'll find that people in the South have a higher anemia iron issue. And it's because hookworm is more prevalent down there. And back in the day, they were walking barefoot, collecting things in gardens, and they got hookworm, and it slowed their speech down. It slowed their processes down from their mind to their mouth connection. And it's a thing, Whipworm will also cause you to have a lot of anemia issues because they absorb the iron. So there's a lot of reasoning behind some of our medical conditions by not cleansing and not getting those things out. A lot of people have anemia and a lot of people are just getting the parasites absorbing that iron and they're just continuing to feed it. So
what are some of the top signs someone might have parasites, even if their doctor says that they're fine?
Grinding the teeth. And even if your doctor says that you're fine, just to be honest with you, they don't know. There isn't really good, accurate, affordable, available testing. And these things are evaders. Even spores, mold is a hard thing to detect. And I'm actually working with a lawyer to get some medical reform. I just want everyone to know that that is my end goal here, is that we should be able to, as humans, roll up and say, I'd like to find out if I have parasites, mold, and Lyme. And I'm working on it. It's my goal for next year. I'd like to go in front of Congress and talk about it with them because we're on this health journey right now with our country. And I don't feel like this should be gate kept anymore. I could have avoided 13 surgeries and a hysterectomy, which altered my entire life, including my health still, because of the fact that I could not get tested for parasites, mold, and ultimately Lyme. Lyme ultimately is what my problem was. And I did have endometriosis, but it was exacerbated by the fact that I had Lyme and I had active mold. Like I know my mom and I have the same mold. I was born into mold. Because of all the research I've done, I have figured out my lineage. Like I know exactly. And the fact that I couldn't go and get that before they did all the things they did, that's also why I do this. But let's go back to what the symptoms are. So a lot of people will grind their teeth because they've hijacked the nervous system while absorbing magnesium and calcium. That is what you need for your body to calm itself down, specifically at night. And your body is telling you something's wrong when you grind. We think it's stress. We think it's just TMJ, but there is something that is in your nervous system causing it. And ultimately, it's probably a parasite. The other thing is when you're up all night long. So if you have insomnia, I was insomniac in around age 13 until about 4 years ago. I now sleep through the night. I wear an Oura ring specifically just to see where my sleep levels are because sleep hygiene is so important. But when I was at my sickest, I would stay up for days. And that's because they're nocturnal creatures. And around 7 p.m. is when they wake up. So if you're starting to eat at 7 p.m., if you're craving sugar, if you're craving salt, it's not you. It's legitimately a parasite inside of your body keeping you awake because that's their breakfast. They're wanting to feed. So they're telling you to do it, to eat this, to do this. And that's how it keeps them having energy. So that's another sign that you have a parasite. Skin issues is a huge one. Your skin is your biggest organ. And by the time it pushes out into your skin, any issues that you have, it could be weeks and months inside of your body before it starts coming out. So a lot of people that have eczema, a lot of people that have rashes, the bumps on the back of your arm, those are all parasite signs. So you really want to get in there and clean out your gut in order for you to know, okay, well, is it really eczema or is it something that I can be proactive a few times a year and clean out my body? And usually people that have IBS, IBD, stomach issues, these are all signs that you could have a parasite. Brain fog. I had terrible brain fog. That was more along the lines with mold than it was parasites. But I mean, they come in and they hijack you. Like they hijack your lymphatic, they hijack your nervous system. They live in your fascia. There's so many things that they can go in and do. They're stealthy. They don't want to be caught, right? They're smart. They're a frequency that's alive in your body and they can tell you what to do. And parasites control your mind and mold brainwashes you. And because they're both frequencies in your body, they can give those indications to your body and you think it's you, but it's not. And if you look up like Toxoplasmosis gondii, which is the cat parasite, it definitely controls the mind. Candida causes you to eat sugar so that it survives and continues to grow. It's telling you to eat the sugar, right? So it is a thing. It sounds very sci-fi, but it really is a thing.
The gut-brain axis is always so fascinating to me. And you just talked about how parasites hijack cravings, emotions, keep you up at night. Maybe they hijack your dreams. Can parasites really change our personality?
Yes. Let's talk about Toxoplasmosis gondii because it's the most recognized parasite out there and it's the most controlling. When you're pregnant, they tell you don't scoop the cat poop, right? That's what everybody has been told. So most of us think, oh, well, just pregnant women can get, whatever they're saying to not scoop that poop. And I've been really fortunate to be on Instagram, and like Patricia Arquette, she has Toxo and gave it to her daughter. And that's why they say don't scoop the cat poop when you're pregnant, is because it can actually be given to your baby. So Toxoplasmosis gondii is found in mice and rats, and it actually controls the mind of the mouse and says, hey, yo, go cuddle up to this cat. I want to be eaten, because the next stage of toxo is an enzyme inside of that cat's gut. So the mouse goes to the cat and is like, hey, eat me. So it eats it. We all know that mice and cats don't like each other, but it controlled the mind and said, you are sexually attracted to the cat's urine. So let's get it on, head on over there and get eaten. So it took the fear of it being eaten out, and it took the inhibition of being sexually attracted to the cat's urine out. And it rewired the front of the mouse's brain so that it could go in and get eaten. So a lot of people that have toxo will ride things like crotch rockets, because they're, that's a scary thing. Like, I wouldn't want to get on a crotch rocket, but they're flying down the road because there's no fear. And a lot of people that are promiscuous, that are out there sleeping around, and they're like, why did I do that? You didn't. You really didn't. You probably have Toxoplasmosis gondii, and that is controlling you. So a lot of people don't understand that things that they're doing is not necessarily them. It really is a parasite that's rewired your brain, controlling you. Fighters go down to Mexico and get toxo so that they can just sit and not be fearful of the fact that the crap's going to be beat out of them, right? So it's a whole nother world when you think, okay, so is this because I have a parasite that rewired my brain, or is this because this is really me? And it's not always, oh, well, I have toxo, so I'm misbehaving. But in reality, if you go get your blood work done and you've been kind of in a weird space, you have toxoplasmosis, and that one can be determined with blood work.
How is it possible that these parasites are so common, but they're just not addressed or even really discussed by Western medicine? Like, up until recently, you sort of hear some things about parasites. You hear things about taking your probiotic, maybe general lifestyle things like exercising, obviously, working out, lifting weights. But I haven't heard people really get into the specificity of parasites like you. Why is it not talked about?
Well, because it's not really studied here, and doctors stay in a box. They stay within what they've read. And 101 years ago, when Rockefeller took over, we've slowly changed the future of our medicine because of the way that our books were written in the past. And when you have someone like myself, who's a subject matter expert, I can go in and tweak the book enough that it slowly starts to go away. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to do that when you have McGraw-Hill, right? McGraw-Hill. I love these publishing companies. I think they're fabulous. But when you have a subject matter expert coming in and going, this just doesn't apply to us anymore. Like, we're a first world country. We don't need to worry about parasites. Let's tweak that a little. Okay. So then you write a second edition, and then that edition rides for a while, and you've trained thousands of people with that book. And then you come in, you go, oh, we just haven't seen anything like the parasite. We haven't seen these issues for 5 years. Okay. So you go in and you tweak the book a little bit more. And then thousands more people go in and they study from that book. So there's an indoctrination. There's a way that they sit and they read and they study, and they're told, don't go outside of the box. If you go outside of this box, you're going to get sued.
And that's where I want to bookmark you for a second, because that's so true. And I don't know if people caught it that are listening. You mentioned Rockefeller. Mm-hmm. And when he infiltrated the medical system with his wealth at the time. Will you touch on that a little bit? And then what's recently floated to the surface around these Epstein files, and how Ghislaine Maxwell's father was associated with McGraw-Hill, if I'm
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay.
Yep.
And so you're talking about, these are things that get thrown around. Oh, this is a conspiracy. That no. If you want the truth, you follow the money. You look at when Rockefeller took over, you look at the integration of Western medicine, you look at the books, who's writing the books, the curriculums that are being made, they're in alignment with where the money is. They're in alignment with all the things Candace Owens is talking about with Israel. And so I'm very curious, your thoughts, being the expert, being somebody that's been on the side of not only receiving the education, but then also being the writer of some of these books and like wanting to update things over the course of time, because this gets labeled conspiracy. And I want people to have firsthand knowledge here and now.
I want to touch just a little bit on the whole Epstein, and I've been involved in quite a bit of the stuff. And we had talked about a document that I found in 2016, and specifically because of what I was researching. But my dad was a colonel in nuclear missiles, and he served with the president. And my dad also held the football. The football is when a nuke scenario happens, one person has a football, one person pushes the button. And so you have to be high ranking, right? And so in 93, I knew about Epstein. I've known about all of that since I was 13 years old. So when it all started coming out in 2016, obviously I dove into it, right? Like I wasn't well, I needed to occupy my time with something. So I really dove in to it and even more. And I felt confident in what I was doing because I really do know from back when I was younger and my parents would warn me. And so I am in that know. And there was a group of us that really worked and dedicated our time in 2016 to get information out. And so I'm fortunate that I was one of those people. And I am very fortunate that I found the document about the worms that I found, not realizing that at the time that was like a validating point for me when I did find a document that talked about worms and malignant tumors. So I was really fortunate that I kind of dove into all of that. And the universe has such a crazy way of directing you, and you don't even know it at the time. So I do believe that a lot of things that we read and that we've studied have been altered for the sake of money. I don't believe that everyone, though, in the world of medicine is in that mindset that they want to do harm. We take an oath to do no harm. I've taken that oath, and that's really why I do what I do on a daily basis, because with this knowledge, if I don't give it out, I feel like I'm doing harm.
I also think you're spot on there. I just want to be clear on it's not demonizing doctors. I think they're in it for the right reasons, not most even knowing the system that they get involved in.
Mm-hmm. There's a huge indoctrination. I was part of it in a sense. I've always been very alternative. I've always went to plant medicine, but I also believed in Western medicine. And so I know, and what I'm trying to show society is that Western medicine is good, but they're not going to heal you. They're here to save your life. And if you switch your mindset to that, if you know you can heal you, but if you need surgery, go to Western medicine. If there are things that you can't do that Western medicine can do, then do it. I go to Western medicine for quite a few things still. I bridge the gap with my holistic ways and my Western medicine. I got an injury in 2021. I have to go to Western medicine to assist with some of it while bridging it with holistic. And so I think that's where our ways need to change. And that's really why I'm so loud about this. I believe we should have, both options, especially with insurance. And just coming from insurance, I just know what all of this looks like. But I think the biggest thing is that we got hijacked 101 years ago and things changed and demonized, like herbs and holistic wellness and homeopathics. That's been around for thousands of years.
And what was the specific role as to how it got hijacked from your knowledge in relation to Rockefeller? Like, what does that really look like for people to understand?
So there's two ways you can look at it. One, you can look at it with maliciousness. Okay. There's no way you can synthesize a plant and get it to the masses. So you have to go in and you have to change a little molecule here and there, which then makes it a synthetic drug, which then can be given to the masses, and that can have money made. You can't patent a plant, but you can base medicine off of the DNA structure of the plant. So similar to benzodiazepine, Amanita is similar in structure, but you can't make money off of the plant. But you can make money off of a synthesized drug. So whether their mindset was that or not, in order to help the masses, you have to synthesize. You have to do it in a lab. And that's how their mindset was 101 years ago. We've only been in this medicine since 1924. And it can take decades to change the way medicine is looked at. So they chipped away at it slowly. And then they villainized it.
I want to assume positive intent there. Like, I don't necessarily want to have a malicious perspective on that. Cause I mean, the same thing could be held true for like regenerative agriculture. It's really expensive. It's hard to do. You need a lot of land to move and have those cows eating grass fed, grass finished their whole life. But then when the population increases, it is really hard to mass produce. And then you end up filling these cows and our food with antibiotics and grain and all these different things because more we think is better, but better is really better. But when you got a lot of mouths to feed, inevitably you're going to have to integrate something like a synthetic plant process that then monetizes, but also you're trying to take care of a large demographic of people. And so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yep. I believe that was the intention at the beginning.
Yes.
I don't think that there was maliciousness right from the get, but I do believe that we've lost our way. And I do believe that there is a simpler way, and we've just not really wanted to go into that as a society because it takes more work. We're instant gratification at this point.
Yep.
And so when you look at it in a bigger picture, 101 years ago, they did change our books and they did change the way that we viewed medicine, but they've also saved thousands of millions of lives doing it. So that's where I come in, and I think Western medicine and herbs and holistic and, looking at everything as a whole and not just going natural. I mean, again, I do both, and I do both because I have Western medicine problems, but I can help them with this. And if my holistic path doesn't work, then I'm going to go ask Western medicine because I'm going to do what's best for me. And we've lost that, like, in society.
I think there's a beautiful world that exists, hopefully in the near future, where preventative medicine and lifestyle meets holistic medicine over here. And then on this side, you've got Western medicine and more honest practices, a little bit more time and energy allocated to the human as a whole. And we're not just pushing things over here like pills and immediate gratification, but you're actually looking over here and saying, how much do you move? What is your sleep like? What are the things that you're drinking? What's your lifestyle? What's your practice? Are you getting up to move, or are you underneath artificial light? Are you sitting all the time? What are some of the traumas we've experienced? But we've specialized everything so much. And I mean, preventative medicine, it's expensive. Most people barely want to pay a gym membership, let alone trying to get a parasite cleanse kit and try to do all these other things. Getting a water filter, it seems far away. It seems out of reach and very expensive to practice these things over here because they're not covered by insurance. So it almost gets demonized from a monetary standpoint of like, oh, I can't afford that. I need to do the thing that I can afford. And this over here has so much more rapport and credibility. So I'm going to do this over here because I know it works. It's FDA approved. And what it really is it's creating trust with the consumer of, hey, you can do this over here. It's faster. Your insurance covers it. You just have to pay a copay. That takes work. That's hard. I can just give you a GLP-1. Why should I put in the work and do these things over here? That's going to take away from time where you could be watching Netflix with your family. Little do they know that Netflix's number one competitor is sleep.
Oh,
And so
wow.
you can get into this like understanding. And for me, the answer is always somewhere in the messy middle. And it's policy or habit over politics. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, we've got into this ideation of like, I have to pick teams. I need to be on a side. And in my brain, I'm like, no, 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 no. Western medicine is awesome. It's incredibly valuable. It's just you've got lenses on specifically over here that you're like, I'm better than you. Preventative, and it's become this, as Jordan Peterson would say, this social hierarchy of one's better
Mhm.
than the other. But it's like if you do preventative and holistic the majority of your life, your signs and symptoms over here are most likely going to be a little bit less, which in theory is going to save money from a whole industry because there's going to be less sick people.
I spend less now than when I was getting surgeries every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're expensive. My cost of life is a lot different and a lot less since I've cleaned up my health. And those IVs that I get that cost me $300-400 a month, I'm not taking the supplements, I'm not taking the pills, and I'm getting true nutrients in my body, which then pushes disease out. My cells are no longer full of toxins because I'm getting absorption immediately, especially when you have a parasite. 90% of your nutrients go to them. So you're literally living off of 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So as you keep doing cleanses, you're now getting 80% less, right? Like, so if you look at those numbers, and I even do this for a living for my podcast, and it's way less than what I used to spend in surgeries and going to the doctor and going to specialists and MRIs and CTs and colonoscopies and endoscopes and all of the things, losing my hair. So then trying to, figure out what's wrong there, and specific facial stuff because, I was wrinkly and I was swollen. And so really looking at it in a financial aspect, I am spending less now than I was when I was in Western medicine. And I know because I do both, I do just as extreme over on the holistic side, bridging with Western medicine, as I was completely engulfed in the surgeries and no nutrients. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want people to understand that, is the switch tough? It can be, but it's also why I made my cleanses $100. Because if you have some form of an answer for $100, like going and actually doing the herbs and just getting an idea if this is a root cause for you, not your main root cause, but if this is a root cause, or if you feel better when you go in and cleanse out your system. And I created a lymphatic kit in order for us to open up our pathways that have lion's mane and turkey tail, and we extract them in such a beautiful way. You're getting a therapeutic dose of the mushroom versus just a supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is responding in a different way. And if you're starting to feel better for $100, I believe it's completely worth it.
And it's a significantly lower risk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not
Yeah.
taking something and then potentially having to then take something else to manage the risk, which is a really key contributor there that should be noted as well. You mentioned colonoscopies, mammograms, tumor biopsies, all these MRIs, CT scans, all these things are kind of sold as information gathering. Hey, I need to do these things in order to get a better look or peek under the hood. Now we're seeing some experts in the realm identify that maybe those things are causing some issues. What are your thoughts there as far as, you hear people talk about at the airport, like, yeah, you don't want those scans getting into your system. And maybe that's not exactly parasite related, but as far as total health optimization and keeping people safe, since you mentioned those, I just wanted to pick your brain on them briefly.
So as far as radiation goes, we do have a tincture called Recover. It's in our Moldies cleanse, and Recover has shiitake mushrooms. And if you research shiitake mushrooms and like Hiroshima shiitake mushrooms went in and cleaned the air, from the radiation of exposure that happened when we nuked that area. So mushrooms are really a great source of absorbers. They're a great source of nutrients. And so I am heavy metals. I created the Recover tincture. It has like oyster, shiitake, milk thistle, and pumpkin seed in it. And that combination helps with your hair, skin, and nails, but it also helps absorb radiation toxicity that might be in your body. I worked in radiography. I was exposed. I did x-rays. I mean, we'd have to wear a little badge to see what our levels were at, but I was exposed. I worked in an airport. I worked for Delta for many years. So I was exposed on a constant basis. And all of that does play a part in your cells. All of it plays a part in your nervous system. All of it plays a part when you are exposed on a constant basis. So it's really just about the knowledge now and kind of filtering it out of your body. But MRIs, CTs, so CTs have way more radiation. MRIs is a magnet. So it's a big magnet that goes in and takes pictures. I like MRIs. I think that imaging is a great way to find out what's going on with you. I do also like labs. I like to explore what's going on with me. I've been this way my whole life. Again, my dad was in the military. I have all my medical records from the day I was born. I'm a nerd. I like to know everything that is going on in my body. I'm such a nerd. But I don't always believe that biopsies, this is not a medical advice. This is just my opinion. I believe there are ways to break tumors down using herbs like turkey tail mushrooms. They are actually given to patients that are on chemo and have cancer. It helps break down the tumor. And so a lot of breast cancer, a lot of prostate cancer, people will take 5 grams of turkey tail in conjunction with other herbs, including my dad. My dad had a really high PSA. We put him on some CBD, CBG, high spectrum, and turkey tail and lion's mane. And so it showed that when we got the cells moving, he's done cleansing, he's done mold cleansing with my kids. When we got the cells moving and not staying stagnant, protecting a tumor, which you think it's protecting tumor, but really it's protecting your body by creating the abnormal cells around the tumor in order for it to not break open and expand inside of your body. That's what your body's doing, is it's building this hard shell to protect itself. But we look at it in the opposite direction. We're thinking, oh, this is harmful, but the body's like, I got to protect it. Then you go in and do a biopsy and you just broke that protective shell the body built around it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But when you get things around it moving and you're able to break it down in a healthy way, things go away. Things go away, and so it's really about also aligning with the right practitioner, which again, I have a ton in my link tree because I want people to be able to get with people who are going to help them and not hinder them. So I believe that a lot of our imaging is very important. It's going to detect that abnormal behavior of your cells. It's going to show it. And it shows parasites at times, depending on where they're at. I mean, I do a lot of videos where they have mass amounts of tapeworm eggs all over their body, and it was detected on an MRI. But also, if they don't know what they're looking for, and it's just an abnormal tumor or cells, and they're looking at it, but they don't know if it's a parasite or not, and then you go and you break it open, it's possible. It's possible. At this point, unless they go in and they do full studies and give us transparency, there's just no way for me to say that it's 100%. But there are a lot of studies. I know there's a few doctors that I follow. Germany believes that a lot of tapeworm issues happen with MS patients. And that's why they use wormwood in order to break down what's going on. You've got Lyme causing Bell's palsy. So Lyme is a parasite. It's a thread-like parasite that goes into your tissue. So parasites are not just in our gut. They're in our blood, our tissue, and our muscle.
No, I appreciate that. That's great context and information for people to take with them into their daily life. Let's talk about the ParaFy kit. I'm excited
Okay.
that one's headed this way, so I'm going to be starting that protocol. What do you recommend? Like, how do you start this practice? And then what can you expect? You know, there's these different videos that you see for things like rise, mushroom coffee, and all these things, and they kind of show like blasting your large intestine, and you're just going to be using the restroom nonstop. What does it look like, and what symptoms can you expect? I know we talked briefly about some of the ingredients. It's over 21 days to really integrate the habit. But let's get into the nuts and bolts and what myself and others can expect when they embark on the ParaFy journey.
Well, it's just an easy cleanse. It's a tincture, so it gets right into your bloodstream. It's not fighting with your stomach acid or fighting with your anything inside of your stomach. So when you put a drop in your mouth, it's very easy. I'm going to show you guys. So this is my favorite tincture. It's called Sustain. It has Oregon grapefruit, usnea, and peppermint, and you can do it straight. That's it. You can do it straight. You can do it in water, or you can put it in juice. If you don't like the taste of alcohol with herbs, it's very earthy if you don't like that, but it's a little sweet because we use raw, unpasteurized, unfiltered honey, and that helps fight candida. If you don't heat it up above 100 degrees, it keeps the medicine. So we created tinctures that are a little sweet. Some of them are bitter because antiparasitics are a bitter. And then we just really tried to make it taste as good as possible. But you can take it like I just did, and there's a variety of ways that you can take the tinctures. It's very easy. ParaFy is your main parasite cleanse. It has wormwood, garlic, clove, hawthorn, flower, berry, which helps with tapeworms. It has the raw honey in it, and we use distilled water, which helps grab the molecules of all of the medicine that's inside of the herbs, and it just kind of keeps it in a preserve with distilled water. And then Sustain, which is our candida, bad bacteria, virus cleanse. It helps mitigate any sort of digestion. It helps keep your microbiome good. And Oregon grapefruit is an anti-inflammatory, so you'll see a lot of your inflammation go down. Metal Flush is our heavy metal detox. It has cilantro. All of the things we use, you've all heard of it. It's just the way you process the herbs. So cilantro, it has dandelion root, it has white willow bark, which helps with any pain that might be associated with parasite cleansing. And then it also has lungwort lichen, which we've talked about already, but that helps break down the biofilm. And then you have a binder, which is a pill that you take at night. So you do this 3 times a day, and then you bind at night. Binders are really important when you're doing any cleansing, including ivermectin, fenbendazole, albendazole, anything that disrupts your lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is the sewer of your body, and it doesn't have a pump or sphincter. So you have to manually do it. You move, you vibrate plate, you do massages. All of that is moving your lymphatic system. These herbs move your lymphatic system. And so we want to bind whatever's being dumped into our body to protect it from being reabsorbed back into our blood, our tissue, and our muscle, and push it out of our poo. That's the main purpose. And charcoal is a negatively charged herb. It's a magnet to positively charged toxins. So it allows it to be magnet and push out. If you're doing anything, you have to bind. It's really important. Charcoal's a little tough, so we do recommend doing the charcoal cinnamon 2 hours after you do your last dose and after any sort of supplements or medicine, because it'll grab it and doesn't know the difference between positive and negative. It just grabs everything and pushes it out. And so we say take that at night specifically because of that, and then your body's still working with it while it's asleep. Make your body work. Like I'll turn on frequencies with subliminal messages at night to rewire my brain. I'll take medicine to help me while I'm sleeping. Like use it, right? Like use your body at night. So it's really a simple cleanse. I want it to be easy as possible. I didn't want people to have to take 26 pills like other parasite cleanses. I didn't want you to have to go to a practitioner. I feel like that's just an extra cost that a lot of chronically ill people don't have. And it's just really important for people to understand their body. And as you're cleansing, you're removing toxins that tell you you're not worthy. You're removing toxins that tell you to keep staying in the hamster wheel of trauma. And it doesn't allow you to address real issues and reconnect with your body. So that was really like my main goal when I created the ParaFy kit. I also wanted to make it inexpensive. At one point, it was $250 for everything I was talking about. So when I went viral in July, by September, I'm like, how can anyone afford this? I couldn't. I was living on food stamps. I was living on governmental assistance, and I could not afford to do the things I was talking about. I was fortunate. People were sending me things to try, so I didn't have to pay. But as I was talking about them, I'm like, okay, so this is $30. Okay, so we got to do heavy metal detoxing. So that's going to cost you around $60. Okay, so you got to bind. That's going to cost you around $50. Okay, so we also need to add some supplements in so that we're not staying in a killing phase. We need to actually go in and be in a supporting phase. Okay, so that's going to cost us around $100. And by the time it was all said and done, I'm like, how can we afford to do this? Like, this is so important. We have to do it. So that's kind of how the ParaFy kit was birthed, and RogersHood was created so that we could keep the costs down if we did it ourselves.
That's awesome. I'm getting fired up and excited to try it.
I'm excited for you.
A cleanse is not a cleanse, right? Like when you hear the word cleanse, some people are like, oh, I'll go to the local juice place and I'll do a juice cleanse. Or, hey, I was at Costco and I saw this thing that could provide a cleanse. We hear it all the time, people buying fish oil from Costco and all these different places. And that's not to demonize Costco, but once again, it's mass production. Usually There's fillers in these things. The quality is not there. And so people are like, yeah, you know what? I want a one-stop shop, Costco, Walmart, Amazon, sometimes Target. People want to go to these places and they want to just, oh, that thing said cleanse. I heard Bryce and Kim on ALLSMITH talk about this cleanse thing, so I'm going to do something close. What's the difference? How do we create education for people to understand the difference between quality? Obviously, we know you have your own manufacturing plant. You've done a lot of this on your own. Like, it makes sense if somebody listens to this podcast in its entirety. But for some people, they're always looking to kind of cut that corner a little bit. I mean, I know I've done it in the past where I work with Thorne. And every now and then, if I just want 2-day shipping, I get my vitamin D on Amazon. I didn't realize that it wasn't actual vitamin D and that I was getting skewed by, whoever was selling Thorne-like capsules with a similar packaging, but it wasn't really vitamin D. And so
that's going to happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Like we had someone this time last year, actually, this exact month, our sales went down and I'm like, what's going on? Right? Like I'm not doing anything different. And I found out by just really digging in. I like to dig in whenever I get like a hair. I'm like, I gotta go. So I found out that someone had stolen the information off of our website, created a new website, and actually was selling my product with my videos from China. And they were named it something different and were trademarked. So that's how we got them taken down. But for 3 months, then they actually sold and sent people just some distilled water with essential oils in it. I had them send me one, didn't know it was me, but it took months to get it down. And we're looking at going on Amazon because it just makes this a little more mainstream. So as a consumer, it's your responsibility to look what's inside in a filler and also research. So one of the reasons why I did this is because of the fact that they wouldn't give me the transparency of what they put in their parasite tincture. But I also am really careful to not get anything that has citric acid in it. Citric acid is mold. It's a GMO modified mold. Citric acid is mold. And it's in like everything. It's in LMNT. It's in gummies. It's in everything that we eat and buy nowadays. And so it's really about your going down the wormhole and researching exactly what fillers are good for you and what fillers are bad for you. And so a lot of these pills that we take have like rice filler in them. Their gelatin is not grass fed, grass finished. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really up to us to research when we buy a product. There are good products in Amazon and Walmart, but it's really about how we want to uh, put them in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really conscientious about all of this now because I want to stay as clean as possible. But as a company, I want to hit more platforms. I want to make this more mainstream, not for sales, because everything I do is free except for my kit. So I give all my knowledge. You can download 5 free ebooks in my profile, fast track guides, cookbooks. I'm working on a cookbook for the Christmas time. Like, everything I do is free, but I want to reach more people. And so I feel like it's up to you as a consumer, now that you have this knowledge, to be proactive and to figure out, oh, well, if I'm doing a powder that's a green, is it really all greens, or is it have a little citric acid in it? So now I'm being counterproductive, right? And that's kind of something that I started to look at more. What are in your ingredients? Not just where you buy. But
Yeah.
I totally am so careful now when I do buy any sort of supplements off of Amazon or Walmart or Target. But there are some good ones out there that are really legit.
For sure. And that's what I love about our conversation today is we didn't just demonize. We painted the whole picture. And so I think this is a good place for us to bookmark it, but we definitely have to have you back on because I think we identified a lot of things today for people to create awareness around, some subtle improvements in their habits, to really understand what are parasites, what do they look like, creating a lot of imagery for people as to the biofilm and how to get in there and how they multiply and how they lay eggs, the relationship with water, the relationship with our pets, with the environment. I'm very thankful for all that context, and I want to steer people towards more information. Kim, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on all the platforms, Mrs. Rogers Hood. That's MRSROGERSHOOD. On IG, it's Mrs. Rogers.Hood. And I did do a play off of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. You got to find the helpers. And I lived in Hoodsport, and we called it the Hood. So my last name's Rogers, Hoodsport. And then you can watch me on my podcast, What's Eating You, with the letter U, and it's on YouTube as well as all podcast streaming platforms. And my website is rogershood.com. You can also just Google me, Kim Rogers Worm Queen, and bam, everything I talk about and everything I do will pop up in Google.
I love that. Thank you for making it so easy and convenient for our community. And I really appreciated your world of knowledge that you shared with us today. We've got to get parasites out of the human body.
We do. Thanks so much for having me.
That was a lot of fun. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation today with Kim Rogers, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've become. Till next time. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.